Let me call the meeting to order. This is a welcome. Thank you for being with us this evening. This is a regularly scheduled Greer City Council meeting called and convened this evening, April 24th, 2018. Having called the meeting to order, I'd like to ask, if you would, to join us as we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and then Councilman Jay Arrowwood will lead the council in an invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for sending the rain. Thank you for sending the sun. Thank you, Lord, for this council giving us the opportunity to serve the city and serve you. I ask, Lord, that as your servant, that you'll give us the wisdom and guidance to make the decisions that are pleasing in your sight. I pray that as we go through this evening and go through the rest of our days, that we realize that no matter what station we are in our lives, that we all are able to serve you. I ask that you forgive me of my sins. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Ms. Duncan, anyone to appear in public forum this evening?
No.
Council, with that, we'll move to the minutes of the council meeting from April 10th, 2018. I'll entertain a motion that they be received.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any items of note for the clerk? Hearing none. Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Arrowwood?
Yes.
Ms. Booker?
Yes.
Mr. Dumas?
Yes.
Mr. Bettis?
Yes.
Ms. Albert?
Yes.
Mayor Danner?
Yes. Council departmental reports are contained in your packet there. I am sure department heads or Mr. Riggers will be glad to give you any additional information you might need in that regard. Mr. Seifert joins us this evening to give us our financial report.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Tonight, we're pleased to bring you the financial performance summary for the month ending March 31st, 2018. Starting with the general fund, we have revenue recorded of $19.3 million with expenditures of $15.4 million. That expenditure level has us at 11% under budget at March 31st. Referencing the dashboards, we have a positive combined variance of just shy of $3.6 million and a carrying cash balance of just in excess of $18 million. Referencing the hospitality fund, we have revenue recorded of $1.6 million. That is 4% over budget. The expenditures of $1.9 million and a carrying cash balance of $879,000. And then moving to the stormwater fund, we have revenue recorded of $787,000 with expenditures of $516,000. And in the stormwater fund, we have a carrying cash balance of just shy of $1.3 million. Be happy to take any questions you may have at this time.
Thank you, sir. Council? Questions? We appreciate the update.
Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we will move to a presentation this evening. Carolyn Robertson joins us this evening. She is Executive Director of Greer Relief and is here to present her annual report.
Hello. Thank you, Mayor, members of Council, and City Administration for allowing me time here today to present our neighborhood in review. And a thank you to the City of Greer for your part in giving hope to our community of neighbors by supporting the mission and programs of Greer Relief. I'd also like to thank and recognize Timothy Joner, our board president, for being present today. Greer Relief was founded in 1936 by neighbors who saw neighbors freezing and starving. FDR called them the uplifters. They cared enough to make a difference over 80 years ago. Today, we continue their mission with our promise that every neighbor matters. The vision and mission of Greer Relief is to transform neighbors in need to neighbors who thrive by providing services to eliminate poverty and help neighbors overcome barriers for success. Already this year in 2018, Greer Relief has assisted 1,311 neighbors in 503 homes. Far too many people struggle to meet the basic needs. The process of getting medical assistance, buying food, making ends meet, and even just knowing where to go for help can be confusing, intimidating, time-consuming, and embarrassing. The J. Vernon Smith Center is a service hub helping to remove these obstacles, bringing people hope by offering a path to stability in their own backyard. In 2017, 4 organizations provided services to the community to answer the struggle by providing medical assistance, food, financial assistance, nutrition education, job counseling, and referrals for much more. We are also blessed to have received grants for renovation of the J. Vernon Smith Center. The John I. Smith Charities $30,000 grant will be renovating the 8 bathrooms and break rooms at the center. Also, CBL Community Foundation, $5,000 grant, has started a renovation fund for the training room, an estimated $23,000 project which will remove 2 walls and triple the on-site training space. Greer Relief is focusing our efforts on 2 programs, Safety Net and Crisis Prevention. Safety Net is what you already know us for, providing assistance to neighbors in need who are experiencing a crisis by helping them with utilities, rent, mortgage assistance. Crisis Prevention provides tools to end the cycle and ensure a path for neighbors in need to become neighbors who thrive. Greer Relief program support includes 5 employees, each providing some sort of element of direct service. Also part of our team are 2 full-time AmeriCorps members and 1 part-time AmeriCorps member. In many ways, America is still the land of plenty, but according to Feeding America, to 41 million Americans, hunger is still a reality. Right now, 40.6 million Americans live in poverty. This means a family of 4 cash income is just over $12,000 a year. In the last 10 years, Greer Relief has prevented homelessness by providing direct financial assistance of rent, mortgage, and utilities to 6,768 households for a total of $1.1 million just to pay the bill. We listen, we share, we ask questions to put the puzzle pieces together and help beyond the stuff and money by offering hope. In 2015, we started a new crisis prevention program, giving tools to end the cycle. This program encompasses multiple layers of need, giving a hand up, not a handout. Renew is reaching every neighbor every way. This program takes the next steps down the path to stability. We focus on financial, job, and health and wellness classes taught by volunteers who want to be part of the healing. It's the doctor who teaches home remedies, the business owner who talks about what it takes to keep a job or get a better job, the nutrition students who prepare, cook, and share a taste of a new recipe using fresh ingredients from donations that we have received. And the greatest benefits of this program we have found is that it not only offers that information and education, it offers community. It offers a safe space to talk. It offers a friend they never knew they had. It offers hope. In 2016, Greer Relief co-founded a new concept program with Loaves and Fishes and Greer Community Ministries, the Greer Food Co-op. We are still the only agency, we're the only food co-op of this type in the state. The Greer Food Co-op has been designed to serve anyone in need and do so in a way that promotes community, individual dignity, participation, and ownership of the co-op. Individuals are eligible for membership if they are currently a neighbor in need through the emergency food pantries of Greer Relief or Greer Community Ministries, and if they have difficulty obtaining enough food for their household. The Benefit Bank has been part of our program since 2010. It is a one-stop online resource application process that auto-populates applications for food stamps, Medicare, and other governmental aid. And then lastly is VITA. Just last week, we ended our 2018 VITA season at Greer Relief and provided free income tax preparation for households making $62,000 or less. 284 households were assisted just across the street, bringing to this community $396,952 for free. So they don't have to go to the big green box or Lady Liberty. We're not just helping by providing the traditional safety net programs, but offering crisis prevention, stabilizing programs to change the path and expand the impact. The mission of Greer Relief is evident. We assisted 3,390 neighbors with safety net and crisis prevention last year. We've shifted with the community to continue to be an impact. We self-assess, seek input and assessment from outside partners. We keep our ear to the ground for upcoming changes, and all of these efforts go to make our community better. Tax assistance last year brought up to the community over $329,000. Our Renew classes were a requirement for the second year in a row for the Christmas morning shop. But we could not do any of this work without the wonderful dedicated volunteers and donors that help us make this work possible. I would like to personally invite you guys to our 4th neighborhood breakfast. Haven't sent the press release out or anything yet. It'll be on June 14th at Greer First Presbyterian Church at 7:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. for a free breakfast and more details on our programs and a testimonial from a neighbor in need. We're always looking for neighbors who want to make a difference. We partner with other nonprofits in the community to band together, share resources, and enhance the impact. We have opportunities for volunteers, donors, sponsors to all get involved. But today, I leave you with a challenge. Pay attention. Poverty is all around us. And I'm not talking about the guy who stands on the corner over at the Walmart saying, I need help. I'm talking about the woman who sits next to you at church that just came to Greer Relief for food last week. Ask questions. What can I do? How can I help? Plug in. We have an incredible network of community partners and organizations in Greer, and we are all here to make this community better. Find something to be passionate about. Think outside the box. And lastly, be a caring citizen. Be compassionate. It's hard to live in poverty with the stigma of being the poor family, the one with the old clothes, the one asking for help. Be caring, be compassionate, offer hope. At Greer Relief, every neighbor matters. When we help each other, we help ourselves. And in the words of Martin Luther King Jr., everything that is done in the world is done by hope. Thank you.
Thank you. You may want to stay there for just a second and see if we've got questions from council, comments, anything you might want to get some more information about.
When you did the taxes.
Yes.
And I know you're doing for free.
Yes.
But then you talked about the 300, 200, or 300,000. Where does that?
It goes, like any tax return, it goes to the person.
Oh, okay.
So instead of,
them.
it goes to them, yeah. So instead
I
of.
don't know if it was a government-funded thing or something. Okay.
It is a government-aided program.
Right.
It is an official program of,
Yeah.
of the IRS. But the refund goes to them.
Goes to the individuals.
Right.
That's great, yeah.
And the difference is we don't take a cut, we don't take a percent, we don't take, $500. I think most of them that have come in have gone to like H&R Block or one of them. It's like $500 to $800. And the average return that we're helping with is just over $1,300. That's a lot. I mean, that's more than half of what they're getting back. So to be able to offer that program, and then of course there are some that come in and they owe a little money, so from the other end.
Yeah, very good.
But please remember to refer anybody over there during that time. We can actually do even more than the $62,000 household, as long as it can't be a landlord type of situation
Right.
where complicated return.
Basically a normal.
Just a
I mean,
normal
just like a
return. Yeah.
1040
But they can
easy or-
itemize. They itemize.
They can itemize?
Mhm.
Yeah, okay.
Anything else?
Carolyn, I'm sure there's never a lack of people in need, but in terms of trends or services that you provide, is there anything that you see that we're not, and I'm not going to say not adequately addressing, because I don't guess we ever fully adequately address it, but is there something that you recognize in our community that is a trending or growing problem?
I have noticed over the last year and a half, our household numbers are growing up, as in the people in them. So back in 2007, 2008, 2009, our households exploded. So we were serving fewer households, but more people, because more people were living together. That's starting to go up again. So we're starting to have multiple generations under one roof again. So not just the traditional parent or guardian with a few kids, but there's some older adults living with them as well. And what that goes back to is that the cost of living is a little bit more, and they're kind of pulling back to kind of save resources. So I'm seeing a lot more of that. I don't know if that's anything that can.
Yeah, it is. I guess that's one of the things I've thought about. And I realize probably cost of living is certainly part of that. Is that as well? I'm assuming just this cycle of poverty that is so hard to break in some cases, or
it is in some cases, but it also, and I'll say that's not always a negative experience for that household, because when they have the extra individuals, they have extra help, they have extra resources, and they're pooling their resources. I mean, there's no reason for a room or such to go unused if somebody's struggling to make ends meet. Why not bring in a grandma or aunt or cousin or whoever that also can help with that family unit? So it's not always, now as far as the dynamic of the family, it might not be the best. But they can come to stress management renew class and feel a little better about it. But yeah, so.
You may not have a feeling for this at all, but I know some of our communities are beginning to revitalize. Some new growth going on in some of those communities. Homes being renovated. Is there an appropriate housing market for some of these folks, or is that a cause as well too? Are rents going up?
Rents going up, and there's been more displacement. So, yeah, and actually was just talking to a colleague last week, and evidently a lot of things are going on in Spartanburg, which are pushing more people out to communities like ours. So we may be even getting an influx of folks from displacement in the downtown Spartanburg city limits kind of range, because it is cheaper, but then we deal without resources, so they don't have transportation, so they're a little landlocked, or they're limited transportation or unreliable transportation. So yeah, elements like that. But I mean, when things get nice, it is nice, but somebody is getting displaced. You can count on it.
Others? Thank you. We appreciate all you're doing.
Thank you very much
Wish
for
you
the
well.
opportunity.
No. Mr. Driggers, I believe your report is next.
Thank you, sir. Earlier today, I did have an opportunity to send you some calendar information. Hopefully that is helpful, getting that to you in a printed form so you can transfer that over to your calendars. do want to highlight a couple of those, and one is our Employee Appreciation Picnic. Please note that that is a different format this year at the request of our employees. We do have a record number of folks that have signed up, so the new format does seem to be popular, but we will be here on Friday evening between 5 and 8 here at City Hall and City Park. You've received some information about that event. We do hope that your schedule will allow you to be with us. I've heard from a couple of you already concerning your schedules. The next morning, we are doing our annual event, what we used to call our Amnesty Day program. Now we call it our Spring Cleaning Day. But it is that opportunity from residents in our community to bring into our recycling center those items that we would not normally collect at curbside. We'll be operating the shredding truck. We'll be able to receive paints and pesticides and those types of things there on the site. Information is provided on our website. We are providing information through our local media as well as our social media outlets for this event. Last year we had a very, very large turnout. I was looking here very quickly for that number. 320 vehicles came through and dropped off items last year. We are expecting good weather on Saturday, so we expect that that number will increase as well. That'll be from 8 a.m. until 1 p.m. at our recycling center. And, of course, that is an event for residents of the city of Greer. And we do confirm their residency as they're coming through through the gates for that program as well. Other items that are there, just as your information, please take a look at that, but also want to highlight Family Fest coming up on May 5th and 6th. We are all proud sponsors of that and glad to participate in that program, and especially for your input and attendance for your council planning retreat on May 8th and 9th. We will start at noon on that Tuesday. We'll provide lunch with some general discussion at that meeting, and then we'll go right into our planning session. We will take a brief break for a meal prior to your 6:30 council meeting, and then we will wrap up that evening with your council meeting and then regather on Wednesday morning at 8:30. We are scheduled for lunch at noon on Wednesday, and that will be a working lunch, but as we will conclude the meeting as part of that Wednesday. So again, Tuesday from noon, working through the council meeting that evening, gathering back at 8:30 on Tuesday, and wrapping up at lunchtime that day as well. Again, on that handout, you'll see some other calendar items. I just ask your attention to look at those. If you have any questions about those, we're glad to answer those. We have had successful turnout and participation with our Kids Planet Master Plan process. We had a good turnout last Tuesday evening here at City Hall. A good number of folks came out for that, but most especially we've had very good participation when we've gone into our elementary schools. And so we are wrapping up that process now as our planning group is putting all that together to help make some recommendations for the renovations at Kids Planet that we'll be doing this next year. But if you haven't had an opportunity to participate in that process, we encourage you to go to our website, click on the link there, and there is a questionnaire and an opportunity for you to provide some feedback to that process as well. So I encourage you to do that. I did provide some information to the mayor just a few moments ago relative to your executive session items this evening. 2 of those are listed on your agenda. I am asking for your consideration to add a 3rd item to that. There would not be a request for any action on that item following, but I do need to get some guidance from council relative to that economic development matter. So that'll be coming up in a few moments, asking that you add that to your agenda under executive session for this evening. Certainly available to answer any questions that you may have, but we will continue the process of getting those calendar items to you in writing. So again, you can go ahead and get your calendars filled from that as well. But any questions, glad to answer those.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Council, we'll move to items of new business this evening, the first of which is a bid summary. This is seeking approval for drainage improvements at Wildwood Drive and Chick Springs Road. Mr. Grant joins us this evening to bring us information in that regard.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. We have a couple of drainage issues that need to be addressed. Two small projects by themselves, combine them into one project to make them more attractive to prospective bidders. First, on Wildwood Drive, we have an existing pipe that dead ends underground. Not exactly positive why, but we did CCTV the line and confirmed that it does dead end underground. The adjacent property owner told us that there was a project started by the city in the past, but it never got completed, and that appears to be kind of what we see out there. Currently, the road drainage, you see the blue pipe, right? Well, the blue pipe up there in the corner. Come and see where. There it is. That blue pipe. The water converges at that point and runs uncontrolled over the street and is eroding the shoulder and the ditch line. You can see in the other picture there. We did obtain a drainage easement from the property owner to run a storm drain line down the side property line. So this project will install new catch basins in a pipe and convey the surface drainage underground down to an adjacent natural area and down to the creek. I know that's a little bit of an unusual situation. Any questions on that before I move to the other one? Okay. On Chick Springs Road, we have a existing pipe on an existing storm drainage easement that daylights into the creek. You can see it crossing under Bent Creek Drive right there. This pipe is about 2 feet underground, but it's about 7 feet above the creek level. There's actually a lip right there you can't see for all the debris, but the water runs over the lip and the pipe is just below ground level, then it drops about 6 or 7 more feet down to the creek. What's happening is the water is running over that lip and eroding the lip away, and then the pipe sections are just falling in the creek as time goes by. This project is going to put in a catch basin to catch all the surface water and get it down into the pipe so it stops running over the lip, and that should fix the situation. As far as bidding goes, we only got one bid on the first advertisement, so we rebid the projects a few weeks later and got 2 bids this time. This project is relatively small, so a lot of contractors didn't bid, I assume, because they're busy on larger projects, so it was just difficult getting multiple bidders on this project. You have the bid summary in your package. Staff recommends that the project be awarded to the low bidder, Faulkner Development, LLC, in the amount of $127,335, and funding will be from Stormwater Fund. And I'll try to answer any questions.
Council, before we entertain a motion, I'll go ahead and open the floor up for questions of Mr. Grant. Hearing none, I'll accept a motion then to accept the recommendation of the engineer and accept the low bidder.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion or questions, comments for the engineer at this point? Hearing none, Ms. Duncan.
Mr. Arrowood.
Yes.
Ms. Booker.
Yes.
Mr. Dumas.
Yes.
Mr. Bettis.
Yes.
Ms. Albert.
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Chief Flowers is with us this evening to discuss revisions to the City of Greer Policy and Procedures Manual. So, Chief, the floor is yours, sir.
Mayor, members of council, I'm here tonight to bring a recommended change to our policy and procedures. And what I handed out just before the meeting was something I hope will help better clarify something that could otherwise be very complicated. So the request that you have in front of you is to adjust the accrual rates specifically for the fire department, and this only affects the fire department, not regular employees and not PD employees. The reason for that adjustment is a little over a year ago, we made an adjustment to how we account for hours that the fire department employees, the shift employees, work. Some of you may be aware that we previously deducted sleep time and meals and stuff like that under the Fair Labor Standard Act, which is something that we can do. But we chose to change how we accounted for those hours because it eliminates the administrative process of trying to keep up with whether or not they get woke up at night, if they get woke up, how often they get woke up, and for how long, and those things. Those are all things we have to track if we choose to deduct those hours. So in doing so, if you look on that handout that I gave you, you'll see a couple things. First thing I want you to look at is under accrual rates per month. The first three columns, the 40 hours, the 42.75, and the 53 hours, those are what are existing in our policy as it is today. So the first column, 40 hours, is a regular 40-hour-a-week employee. So myself, I would be included in that because I work typically Monday through Friday, even though I'm in the fire department. So a regular scheduled employee falls in that category. The 42.75, that is PD employees who work shifts. That's where that comes into play. And then the 53 hours is what is existing in the policy today for the fire department. The very next column, 56.65, is actually the number of hours that the fire department is scheduled to work effective of that change. Okay, the change that we talked. Is everybody following me to that point? Okay. So if you look at that and you look at the difference, again, this only affects the fire department employees. So we're going to focus on those two columns, the 53 and the 56.65. If you notice there, and I've got a highlight, and I'll explain that highlight here in a minute, so let's just stop there. And you notice that the 10.6 and then 11.33. In order to be equal in how we provide vacation, sick leave to our employees, we have to define what a day is. Well, you know, if you ask a firefighter, a shift firefighter, a day to them is 24.25 because they come to work at 7:45 in the morning. They don't get off till 8 o'clock the next morning. But then they're off for 2 days. So a regular employee comes to work Monday through Friday and is here 8 hours a day. So a regular employee's hours or day is defined as 8 hours. Then if you go under the police department, a regular employee, shift employee's day is 8.55 hours. And for the firefighters under the old or current schedule is 10.6 hours. And that's what they've accrued from the beginning. And now with the changes and going back and adjusting that from 53 to 56.65, a day for a firefighter or shift firefighter is defined as 11.33 hours. So if you'll look at the bottom of those columns, you'll see something called a rate modifier. That first column, 40 hours, that would just simply be 1. All right. The next one is 1.06875. That's the modifier for the police shift employee. The next one is 1.325. That is the existing modifier for the fire department employee. And then finally, you have 1.41625, and that is what we're recommending the change to go to. And what that does is it allows, and over to the right-hand side, you'll see several more columns where it says regular, PD, FD old, FD new. All that's doing is demonstrating the calculations work out the same, and everybody is equally accruing their days. That's just showing that, or basically checking the math, so to speak, and letting you see what the impact there is. So again, the actual final effect on this only deals with shift firefighting employees. So it does not affect me or other fire department employees that work a regular Monday through Friday schedule. It does not affect the police department or regular scheduled employees. So the reason that that's being requested is obviously because of the changes we had to make in how we account for the hours in the year. And the difference is a regular employee works 2,080 hours in a year, and the fire department employee works 2,948.5 hours in a year. And again, that's where that rate modifier comes into play. So we simply divide that number of hours by 2,080, and that's how we come up with that rate modifier. And that basically takes into account those employees working more hours than a regular 8 to 5 Monday through Friday employee. And that's why we're asking for that change. Why we're asking for retroactive is because we noticed that math didn't work out with the existing policy, and we're just trying to set that right.
right, council. Floor is open for discussion or questions.
The vacation year runs January 1 through December 31. So running that back to July, how does that fit into that?
That is because that's when we changed the actual hourly rates, because again, when you take the number of hours that we are counting throughout the year for the fire department employees, if that number increases, we have to divide their annual salary by that new number of hours to get their new rate. And that's when that effect changed. It didn't change on the calendar year.
We did it on our budget year.
We did on budget year.
Well, that's not what the book says.
That's,
The book says it's counted on a calendar year.
Well, it is. But we made that, we had to make the adjustment for, under FSLA, with our new budget year. It was just, that was the most appropriate time for us to do that. And so what they earn and their, how we keep up with that vacation year, that is on that calendar year. But we appropriated it July 1 in our fiscal year budget. And so it was a mid-year adjustment relative to the calendar.
So vacation time is accumulated on a calendar basis.
Correct.
So your proposal, does it enable firefighters to gain more vacation quicker?
it will give more time, but it will bring them in line with being equal to other employees based off the number of hours of work.
So you're saying they've been at a disadvantage to this point?
At the point where we changed how we account for hours, yes.
They have been from July 1 till now.
Right. And so we're going to go back and fix that.
Well, no, before that, no, because we calculated their hours differently, their working hours. That adjustment was made July 1. We didn't catch the corresponding leave calculation until after that had occurred, and we're trying to correct that.
And this, I'm sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you.
I was just going to say, I guess my bottom line question is, a 40-hour employee, a police employee, or a fire employee, if they work 10 years, they all earn the same amount of vacation time?
The equivalent.
Equivalent.
Yes, because they work different hours. Equivalent being a day.
Right.
So if you were to get 4 weeks vacation or 2 weeks vacation, what we are corresponding that to is that a firefighter would not get 10 24-hour shift days off. They're going to get the equivalent that a 40-hour-a-week person would. We're trying to make it equitable so that whether you work a 12-hour day, a 10-hour day, a 24-hour day, or an 8-hour day, that if you get a week's vacation, it's calculated based on those hours worked so that it is an equitable amount of time. One doesn't get more or less than the other.
Okay, that's my bottom line question.
And again, at the top of that, where you see the 40 hours and the 42.75 and either the 53 or 56.65, that's the number of hours that those employees, those classes of employees, work per week. So a 40-hour employee works 40 hours in a week. A police department 42.75 employee works 42.75 a week. So we have to account for the differences in their work week, but we want to make sure it's equal, because obviously there's a difference between equal and fair. You know, what's fair to me may be different and fair to you, but we're trying to make sure it's equal.
So a firefighter that works a 56.65 hour week would be entitled to the same amount of vacation as an employee that works a 40-hour week for the same 10 years?
Now they're getting a little bit more money, more hours than a regular employee, and that's where those, if you look in like the first line, 0 through 1, you see the 40 hours is 3.34. That's what they earn per month for that particular employee class. If you go to the next one, it's 3.57. That's what they earn in that same month. And finally, over to the fire department, it's either 4.43, or if you approve the change, it's 4.73. So that's where they're making more hours because they're working more hours.
Is this pretty much the way it's done elsewhere?
Yes, sir. And actually,
Well, what we find is it's done a lot of ways in a lot of places.
True.
But what we believe is that those systems that we have identified that work well and seem to be equitable do it this way. Yeah. Now, there are certainly places that do it differently, but not ways that we would recommend that we would do it.
Well, for example, the city of Greenville, they don't have theirs split up in vacation and sick leave. They basically wrap it all in one thing called, PTO or PDOs. And they actually, that same, if you look at that 0 through 1, so a 1-year employee, with them, they get 104 hours a year. If you look at our base here at 3.34 per month for those employees, a brand new employee for the city would actually come out to a little over 136 hours in a year. Combined benefit between the sick and the vacation. So, I mean, it's a very generous policy. And we very much appreciate it, but that's just an example of how other local areas handle leave policies.
Certainly our intent isn't that we are requesting additional leave time for any class of employee.
No.
Our intent is to establish equity across our classes.
Right.
You good with this?
Yes, sir. HR has spent a substantial amount of time evaluating the accuracy of it. Fire department has done that as well in relation, because anytime you make a change relative to a specific class, we are assured that those employees will scrutinize that to see if it's to their advantage or disadvantage, and administratively we've reviewed it as well. We believe that this corrects an inequity.
Are the employees, no matter what department they work in, do those hours that they can accrue in a year's time, do those expire on December 31, or?
We have two policies in place as far as how much you can accumulate. On annual leave, we restrict that to 6 weeks total. Anything that if you were to have leftover, it can go over to sick, but we also restrict sick at 6 months. And we grandfathered some folks in a number of years ago that exceeded that, but there is our policy. That restriction basically says you can't exceed using 6 months. You can accumulate more than that, but it doesn't have a value. So we restrict how long you could be away.
I assume that the federal government, this policy, their law creates all of this, instead of the market dictating, okay, we're going to pay a firefighter X, and for his first year he gets X amount of time off, and then after that you get X more time off. It's capped out at 5 weeks. So I'm assuming you just can't do that.
Well, keep in mind that Fair Labor Standards Act, there is no federal or state requirement that you give sick leave or vacation leave to any employee.
Right.
Leave is a benefit. It is not required
Right.
under any circumstances. So that is a policy that you have established for all employees. But how we treat employees relative to overtime pay is where Fair Labor Standards Act comes in, and there are classes of employees that are identified in these different hours, and that is dictated to us by federal law.
Council, I entertain a motion to receive based on the recommendation of the chief.
Second.
Have a motion and second. Any further conversation, questions, comments?
I'm going to take Mr. Drigger's word for this one. It's pretty complicated.
It is indeed. Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Aaron Wood,
Yes.
Ms. Booker?
Yes.
Mr. Dumas?
Yes.
Mr. Bettis?
Yes.
Ms. Albert?
Yes.
Mayor Danner?
Yes. Thank you, sir.
And Mayor, if I may, one last thing. As of this afternoon, at about 3 o'clock, we went live on 800 megahertz. So now your police department and fire department are on 800 megahertz radios and on the system. So
That's countywide?
that is right now. It's not countywide. We're actually the first fire department in the county, other than the city of Greenville, to go live on 800. But we are working with our partners diligently, Bowling Springs, Taylors, and Pelham, to get them on board. Actually, we'll still be on board before the county goes live countywide. So, thank you.
Great. Thank you. Council, first and final reading of resolution number 13-2018. This is a resolution to authorize the city administrator to execute an agreement for the sale of property with South Carolina Greer Poinsett LLC.
Mayor and Council, in your package, you'll notice that both the Resolution 13-2018 and Ordinance 13-2018, which happens to be a coincidence, which is purely coincidental, these are both relative to discussions that we held earlier in executive session concerning the sale of property that the city has, a portion of property at the old Ryan site. This is that property. It requires both a resolution and ordinance. The resolution authorizing us to execute the agreement. You earlier gave me approval to negotiate that agreement. This authorizes us to execute that agreement. And then the ordinance, please recall that any time that the city sells property, that is required by ordinance with 2 readings of City Council. And that's why you're seeing both of those items together.
Thank you, sir. I'll entertain a motion to receive.
So moved.
Have a motion and a second. Floor is open for discussion. Questions? Comments? Hearing none. Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Aaronwood?
Yes.
Ms. Booker?
Yes.
Mr. Dumas?
Yes.
Mr. Bettis?
No.
Ms. Albert?
Yes.
Mayor Danner?
Yes. Council, the first reading of ordinance number 13-2018. This is an ordinance authorizing the conveyance of certain real property in the city of Greer. As you've heard from the administrator, this one is related to the first reading of the resolution that we just passed. I'll entertain a motion to receive.
So moved. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Floor is open for any discussion. Comments? Questions? Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Aaronwood?
Yes.
Ms. Booker?
Yes.
Mr. Dumas?
Yes.
Mr. Bettis?
No.
Ms. Albert?
Yes.
Mayor Danner?
Yes. Council, in executive session this evening, we have 2 stated matters. We also have a request to add a third matter that will require no action but needs to be added to our executive session.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we add item C, which is an economic development project. And in the request, it's the motion for council to enter into executive session to discuss the proposed location and provision of services for an economic development project as allowed by state statute section 30-4-70A5.
Council, we've got a recommendation. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion in that regard? Question? Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Aaronwood?
Yes.
Ms. Booker?
Yes.
Mr. Dumas?
Yes.
Mr. Bettis?
Yes.
Ms. Albert?
Yes.
Mayor Danner?
Yes. Council, we have 3 items for executive session this evening.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we go into executive session to discuss a contractual matter. And the motion is for council to enter into executive session to discuss a potential contract for property purchase as allowed by state statute 30-4-70A2.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Discussion? Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Aaronwood?
Yes.
Ms. Booker?
Yes.
Mr. Dumas?
Yes.
Mr. Bettis?
Yes.
Ms. Albert?
Yes.
Mayor Danner?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I'd also like to make a motion that in executive session we discuss some legal advice, and in the motion I'd like to say that council wants to enter into executive session to receive legal advice regarding pending litigation as allowed by State Statute 30-4-70A2.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Ms. Booker,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Ms. Albert.
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes.
And thirdly, I'd like to make a motion, again, this is for a discussion only, no action is going to be required on this, that council goes into executive session to discuss an economic development project. And the motion is for council to enter into executive session to discuss the proposed location and provision of services for an economic development project as allowed by state statute section 30-4-70A5.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any question, discussion, comments? Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Ms. Booker,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Ms. Albert.
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. Council, in executive session this evening, we've considered three matters. A contractual matter relative to a potential contract for property purchase, a legal matter in regards to receiving legal advice regarding pending litigation, and also a economic development matter relative to the proposed location and provision of services for an economic development project. We've taken no action in regards to any of those three items. Do I hear a motion to come out of executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Ms. Booker,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Ms. Albert.
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. Council, we have no further stated business.